So hi, yes, I'm Tom. My details are at the bottom. Please do feel free to get in touch, and yeah, any questions at the end would be great as well. You've probably never heard of us, but basically what we do is solve a load of industry problems that have existed for a very long time and come to solve those, and we have more coming. As Louise mentioned, we used to be called AdSignal. That's because of the first product we had was very much ad focused, and then we realized the underlying technology had applications for a lot more. So rather than just advertising, Snicket Labs gives us that freedom to talk about all of those different applications, both in media and entertainment and beyond into other things. You won't have heard of us and possibly won't know two of those names, but we were started in 2018. And we basically have created this proprietary image and audio fingerprinting algorithm that does stuff for video that nobody else in the world can do, solving a load of problems. And that's what we do. It has both cost and carbon savings to our customers, and this is always fun to say. So UK TV advertising is a £5 billion market. Every ad that goes on TV has to be cleared by Clearcast. We built and manage that platform, and our tech helps work out if those ads are suitable and who they're suitable for. And then when an ad goes on TV, it used to take 8 days to find out when that ad played. Our algorithm watches TV and tells you in 2 seconds, and it's now the official source of data for the country. So we're the start and end there. And I've given you away a little bit of that. These are the kind of companies we're working with. These are our technical partners. There's some big names on there, obviously. NVIDIA, world's largest company, doing a lot with AI, and you can see why that's relevant in a minute. I said I'd talk about the journey. It's been a bit of a weird one. We're not your typical company in terms of how things have run. I've broken this down in kind of the kind of preparing stage and before we got going, setting off, so where we actually made our first marks and got started, and then where we are today, which is the acceleration, and eventually the plan is to arrive and grow and exit the business. But I'm not going to talk about that yet because we are not there. So the preparation stage, quick question, how many parents in the audience? Anybody? Right, did anybody when you were having your first child say, having a baby is really hard, and you thought, and then you had that baby and you realized just what hard meant? Well, that's kind of how I think about starting a company now. So my background is I've been coding since I was 6 years old. I've built stuff in pretty much every industry you can name. And did law at uni, completely self-taught around coding, and then started my own consultancy initially, and ended up accidentally specializing in media and entertainment, ended up working behind the scenes with companies like Sky, agencies like Publicis, and finding these problems that existed. And when the company I was working for at the time got bought out, I decided to go and try and solve some of these. So I locked myself away and tried to solve one of these particular issues, which is ads playing out on TV. And I'm not sure how many people are at the kind of start of their journey at the moment, but one of the core things is, the viability of the product. So is it actually technically possible, which before us, this particular one wasn't? Could we make it commercially viable, or was it going to be ridiculously expensive to run, and who was going to buy it? And where do you start? So this is what we did with Shure. So as I say, it took 8 days to find out when a TV ad played. We're doing a similar application for South Africa at the moment where it takes 6 weeks. So we're not as bad as some of the other countries, guys, but we're not good. And then everything before us was direct from the broadcaster. So there was no real independent validation of what actually happened, and there was a lot of pain there. So that was affecting, firstly, if I'm an agency and I'm putting ads on TV and I don't know when they've played, I therefore don't know what engagement I got off the back of them until it's too late. So it's slowing down the cycle. So a faster response meant better performing ad campaigns, which in turn meant more money for the broadcasters as well. So that's what we do with the Shure validation. So we had to find an approach. I was basically locked in a room for about 9 months building the original algorithm for this. One of the hardest things I've had to do. Solve that kind of technical, can we make this work thing. The industry company that tried to do what we do before this was about 40% accurate. We built something that was 99.99% accurate, and then realized that we needed to do a lot to make that commercially viable by making it a lot more scalable, a lot more performant. Which took some time, and then knowing who we can offer that to. So in 2019, so I started the company in October 2018. 2019, we did a POC, proof of concept for Sky. And we monitored 40 channels for 4 months and got 100% accuracy. AI generated this image and I had to leave it up because it's just so ridiculous. But effectively, yeah, we're monitoring everything that comes down off the TV channels. So that kind of got us going. That was our original kind of preparation and route in. And we were talking to broadcasters like Sky about trying to get this going. It was extremely slow going. We did a couple of POCs. Nothing really happened very fast. And then something interesting happened in 2020. Not just COVID, but Clearcast. So Clearcast are the guys who approve all the ads for TV. They decided to launch a tender for a company to build an ad delivery service. So ad delivery, you make an ad, you need to deliver it to each of the broadcasters in each of their formats via the right method, and that's an entire business. So I built one of those, and what they were asking, and I basically went to them and said, I'm interested in responding to this tender. We are 1.5 people right now. It's a very large project to build, but I built one before, and I can build a team that will create one. And that's exactly what we did. So I realized in order for us to be able to build this thing, we're talking, a very large amount of money here. We would not be able to absorb that cost and then license it to them. So we came up with a solution where actually they would own the original code for this, just this isolated area, but we would be paid to maintain it and look after it going forward, which is exactly what we did. Eventually, we won that tender in February 2021. Inside a month, we went from me full-time, my co-founder part-time, to about 18 people, which was very rapid growth. And then we successfully launched the product in November 2021, and then it became responsible for a lot of the ad delivery happening in the country. That was delivered on time, on budget, with 3 issues, which were text changes. There was not a single bug reported because of how we'd run what we call CI/CD, continuous improvement, and ongoing UAT, which was awesome. And then one of the problems they had at the time was they had a very legacy system that was taking low resolution files that they were approving for TV, and then the files we needed to deliver were very, very high quality masters. And they needed a technology that was able to prove that the ad that they'd cleared was the same as the ad they were delivered. And I said, Tom, what can we do about this? Is there a technology? And I said, guys, I'm really sorry, you're not going to believe this, but we literally have the only tech in the world that could do this. So this proprietary algorithm that we built is the only thing at the time that could do that comparison and tell them what was what. So as soon as the product went live, they immediately became a customer of one of our SaaS products at the same time. And then we've grown our offering to them over time as well. So that was a kind of an interesting journey. As I say, we went from self-funded to revenue funded basically overnight, and then we grew organically from there. The first year, we were very cautious with our money because we wanted to make sure everything got delivered properly. If there was an overrun, we could cover it. And then the next year, we started really investing both that profit and the profit from our ongoing work into our other SaaS products. And we now have 9 potential products from that one algorithm. That's just in media entertainment, let alone what we can do elsewhere. 4 of them are built, and I'll come on to those in a moment, but this is where we started off. So, anybody recognize that program?
Certainly do.
All right, okay. So Dad's Army. The BBC have 127 versions of the same episode of Dad's Army. No idea what the differences are, right? So these are in different formats, codecs, resolutions, bit rates, frame rates. Nobody has a clue. Everybody's terrified to be the guy that deletes something and then gets fired for it. So they've just been growing over time. Match, using this algorithm, can look through all of those and go, these are the 10 or 20 unique ones at the best quality, keep those, delete the rest. And it will show you to the millisecond where any differences occur. So I literally have some 40-minute episodes where the only difference is 1/25th of a second of solid black. Humans not going to catch that. You don't need both of those, but you need the certainty in knowing what you can delete. BBC is particularly bad. On average, 60% of all the content that is being held is not needed. Talking to a US customer at the moment who has 400 petabytes, 400 million gigabytes of content, 60% of which they don't need. And actually 40 40 petabytes of that is content they would like to sell, but the duplication problem's so bad, they wouldn't know which asset to deliver if they sold you that season of that episode of that show. So we talked about validation of products before. The old saying, kind of, if you're going to sell something, you need to either save £2 or make £2 for somebody for every pound you charge them. This does more than this, so much more than this. And so you can see how both you'd be saving the money. All of that content that's there, you're not just paying the storage fees, there's actually a load of maintenance that goes into that content. People are constantly reviewing it. If I asked you to go and find me season 1, episode 1 of Dad's Army in English, and you have 127 versions and no way to compare them, you're going to spend a lot of time searching. So that's what we do, enable you to monetize, and then there's a load of different ways we can use this data later on. So as an example, we've brought out a new feature for Match right now, which we call content thinning. So imagine a reality TV show like Traitors. They have a lot of what we call fixed rig cameras built into the house that are filming 24/7. The first job when you get back is, where did something happen? When did somebody come onto the scene? Or nobody was in the shot, but we heard them, right? And you've probably seen some of those as well. Our algorithm, again, it's just maths, no AI, will very quickly pick out where all of those changes occur, highlight those, and you just focus on those. Now, what you want to do with that next, does that need to go to an AI? Does that need to go to a person? It's completely up to the customer. We integrate with whatever you want, a DAM solution, a workflow engine, and then you can choose. But we see ourselves as content intelligence. You then decide what you want to do with it. So far, so good? People are nodding at me. That's really encouraging. Thank you. So benefits. So again, it's got to come down to, what does this do? So we can monetize. Things will go a heck of a lot faster, not just for your content, but your teams as well. Minimize all of those costs, and there are a lot of them. And then progress towards CO2 emissions. If you're storing 60% less, you are basically consuming 60% less carbon if you're using cloud storage. It's kind of a linear equation. But there's more to it than that. If you're taking that video and you're creating a version that you can play in a web player, because not everything is web player friendly, you've just duplicated that and created even more carbon just by doing that processing. If you're migrating, I'm holding my content with Amazon, I want to change it to holding it with Google. That migration is ridiculously expensive. And so if you can deduplicate that content before you migrate, you're going to save yourself a load of cash. I think I've covered this. There you go. ROI every time. So we're kind of now in this acceleration phase. We have Match up and running. We have Assure. Yeah, we would continue to invest in that. We built a product called Enrich. Enrich basically is if you want to do any kind of AI processing on video, those AI services will take out 1 frame a second. But if I've got a scene in Friends where 2 people are talking for 5 minutes, I'm going to get the same data back. So our algorithm tells us that. We take one image, put it through whatever AI you want to use, we're agnostic, and then apply that data back to everywhere we see that image. But that scene might be in 60 different language versions, and we've still just taken 1 frame. So we're reducing AI by 75%, but we check every frame. I'm going to jump out of media and entertainment for a second, because this has security implications. So with Match, if there's a terrorist attack, there are 300 Met officers watching content pulled off social media. You might have 100,000 videos, but there's only a very limited amount of unique stuff. We can find that very quickly. With the Manchester bombing, the bomber cut in front of the camera for 1/4 of a second, and it was missed by eye for a while. We would have found that frame, literally just 1 frame, and recorded it and put it through facial recognition or whatever AI services you want to use. That's what Enrich is there to do. Cool. So then Barb, right? So this is the interesting one. So Barb are the guys who are, Clearcast, they're owned by Sky ITV and Channel 4. Barb are the industry body responsible for what we call ratings, which is the currency you buy advertising in this country and a load of others. And they put out a tender in 2023 for a system that would track ads on TV. And we went in with Assure. Luckily, we could go with our Sky POC and the 100% accuracy that we got, which led us a load of weight. So suddenly this thing that we built, that we were trying to sell, the tender came up and we were successful. And it launched in, not launched, we launched, sorry, that's the wrong date, apologies. We launched, yeah, it should say 23. So Feb 23, we won it. And then April last year, it went live. So it's been running for a year, just under a year, as the official source of data. And we push that out to the industry every day with very, very high accuracy. And there's more things happening in this way. And we now, in the last week, have submitted doing the exact same thing in South Africa and then Ireland and places like that as well. I've jumped around a little bit here, but basically, I've spent a lot of time thinking about this, but there are some people that start companies because they go, I want to make some money. I find that fatiguing. My thing is I love the tech. I love what I do, and I love the challenge. Business is kind of the ultimate challenge for me in terms of what we can do and how we can do it. Finding the right people, that can be very difficult. Make sure they're the right people. If you're not sure during their probation periods, they're probably not. Stay focused as much as you can. We have all of these different product opportunities, these different market segments we can go after. We're very picky about how we prioritize what we're going to do next, where we're going to be. We're deeply ingrained in the industry, so we're knowledgeable, but we're also agile. So if opportunities come up, we can assess them. We have a framework for doing that and then working on those. And as much as you can, become mission critical for your customers. That is not always easy, but now as they kind of start and end of the ads in the UK, we are for at least some of our customers and have more opportunities. So we're going to be focusing on Match specifically at the moment. We have the other products ready. We have Foresight. We have Enrich that we can offer. We're focusing on very specific markets, particularly media and entertainment. I am having conversations with the Met and with TfL about all of those cameras on buses and in tube stations. But we're staying, in terms of our marketing effort and our R&D effort, we're staying in one place. And then part of the industry conversations, if you can do this, we are part of some of the groups that are setting things that matter to us. So for example, video formats, the way metadata is structured in video and the way clearance data is structured in video, we are part of the group that is, I'm actually chairing the group, that is part of setting those standards for the DTG. If you ever plugged a SCART cable into the back of your TV, that's their standard, right? They do a load of stuff like that and it becomes industry standard. Guess what? When that standard launches, my tech is going to be compatible with the standard, right? Because we'll build the tech around what we know is coming. Agility around opportunities is obviously key, and strategic plays to make us more mission critical. So we have these opportunities to do more of what we do deep in the industry and really help some people. I'm aware I speak very fast, but yeah, that is me. Any questions?
The landscape's changed enormously, the tech landscape's changed enormously.
Yeah.
If you do this again, what would be different about how you'd approach it from a technical standpoint?
From a technical standpoint, in the beginning?
Yeah, so say you're starting now.
Yeah.
So you've got the same passion, the same knowledge, the same commercial insight.
Yeah. Is this for me?
And of course, we're talking about the impact of AI on all sorts of things.
Yeah. So it's interesting because we do use AI to help us do what we do. We've used AI to quickly generate prototypes of things and solve a number of problems. And then, of course, what we're doing makes any AI you want to do on video better anyway in a number of ways. But in terms of our engagement, if I was going to do it again, I might use AI to kind of prompt me in a particular direction or test what I was building more economically. Because when I originally built the Assure algorithm, I had basically a fake TV channels made up of hundreds of adverts that I was constantly tweaking the algorithm against. And I could have automated some of that process with AI and got to the end faster. Would I have gone an AI route to the solution? No. Because from an economic point of view, in terms of the speed of the product, the performance of the product, we're outstripping anything AI can do.
You're talking about the performance of the runtime code then is better.
Yeah, exactly. So if you've got, so normally in video we talked about duration multipliers. So if I've got a 1 hour video, does it take you 30 minutes or 2 hours to run that video through? And some of the AI is pretty good, like it can chunk through some of that stuff pretty quickly. But for example, so our current audio fingerprinter can do kind of an hour in 10 minutes. the new one will do an hour in about 4 seconds, right? And this is stuff that AI is not even going to come close to. AI is also, so what's really interesting is we were the first to do any of this. And then we had a competitor come up that uses an AI-based solution to match. So not for Assure, not for the TV tracking, but for the comparison of assets. Yeah. And they trained an AI to try and tell the difference between these two assets. The problem is it cannot deal with different formats like we can. So it's very limited. And if they want to, and we're developing new video formats all the time. So if they wanted to then retrain that, it becomes ridiculously expensive. Ours, the algorithm tells us, we know exactly where the shortfall is. We can see what the variable, it's basically, imagine a wall with 100 knobs and dials, which are our settings. We can fine tune that however we want. We can run it, 1,000 different variants of that very, very quickly, whereas that would be absurdly expensive as an AI training landscape. So the graphics cards, the machines you need to do AI training are where most of our cost comes from. So in terms of efficiency, yeah, I would definitely take if not the same approach, a similar approach, and I think one of the traps that you always want to avoid is trying to solve all the problems or create the perfect product. We created a version that was, I was going to say good enough, but 4 nines is pretty damn good, right? And then we evolved it from there. So as I don't mind saying, when we went live for Barb, our accuracy at the beginning wasn't quite where we wanted it to be, because certain broadcasters were doing things with their ads they shouldn't. So you're not legally supposed to put the name of your channel over the top of an advert, but some of the broadcasters were, and it was lowering our accuracy. And so we had to adapt for that. There was another one where, I won't tell you who, but one of the broadcasters is taking your ad and then squashing it, not in the same ratio, but squashing it so they can put something along the bottom and the side of the ad. Mm-hmm. Again, we adapted for that as well, right? So it's about critical MVP, which is the minimum I need to ship to get value to my customer, that I can support properly, right? So it's not going to be something that's just going to fall over and embarrass me. I kind of always like to say I'm willing to put my tech where my mouth is, right? So if I tell you about a product and you say, I want to see for myself, I will show you, or rather you can have a login and you can see for yourself, right? Yeah. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, kind of. So.
Please?
No, so my business, I use agentic AI tools to build software.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, lots of people say that's terrible, the code is awful, but it delivers some real benefits. I can get to demo proof of concept or even MVP in a fraction of the time. And I know it works. Okay. So if you were to start with that ability, could the AI today build your algorithm?
No.
Right.
Because so AI will pull a rabbit out of a hat because it knows what a hat is and what a rabbit is, right? But building something that's never been built before like this, it will try and pull on other things that exist in the industry or other industries that it can reference, right? And this is part of the thing is when I was building this, there was no frame of reference. I've built stuff for all kinds of industry. I built stuff in NatSec that was easier because I could look at something that was done in e-commerce and kind of apply similar principles. There was nothing I could reference at all, for sure, that was actually going to do what we do. Everybody else had taken a completely different approach, which is called watermarking. Watermarking is where you embed something into the video that's supposed to be inaudible and invisible to track it. We don't do that. We don't put anything into the video, which is also why Match is able to compare 2 videos we've never seen before. So genuinely, it couldn't do it. We do use AI tools to build things like, so for example, we have built an automated pre-clearance product that will scan through your ads and pick out the most common issues that mean that ad might not be suitable for TV, for digital use, social use, whatever it happens to be, which country is it in, all of that. We used AI to rapidly prototype that. One thing I think is critical is the people that are reviewing that code are senior developers who can tell if there's an issue. And especially for the kind of security stuff we need to do when it starts moving into production, then we're very, very careful about that. Co-piloting, so dev writes great quality production code, and AI quickly reviews it and helps us with that, is less of an issue. But at the end of the day, you kind of need somebody with enough experience to know, is this doing the right thing? But yeah, it's certainly not a hard no to prototyping. I mean, if you can get something, particularly if you want to prove a case and prove a business case to a customer, yeah. I mean, if it was me, I'd be going, how am I going to do this properly once we get the buy-in and we've proven the case? But yeah, nothing wrong with it.
Amazing. Any other questions? Yeah, come back.
You mentioned about the need to save £2 or make £2 for every pound you charge.
Yeah.
I don't know if we come to this
That's,
specifically,
yeah.
but relatively, how big an asset library does a customer have to have for this to become cost effective for them?
Yeah, good question. It's more about what their rate of duplication is. So if you're a customer and you've got, I don't know, 100 20-minute videos, but you don't need half of them and you don't know which half, then us scanning that and getting rid of them is valuable, right? And it would be, we charge a one-off processing fee per minute of video we process, which is low. And then you quickly identify and then you ditch half and that's that, right? So we do obviously have economies of scale. So when we're talking to someone like, well, one of the big broadcasters in the US or one of the big streaming services, there's vast libraries of content there. And particularly the ones that have been going the longest, their problems have built up over time. And part of Match's beauty is actually, I kind of think of it as spring cleaning, then keeping it clean. And one of my team will always talk about, it's kind of like putting solar panels on your house. You've got that upfront cost, but then you're going to make that money back every year. And if you're the BBC and you have been around a while and you're going to hold that indefinitely, and one of the things that's happening in the industry as well is a lot of that old content is now more valuable. People are looking for, so for example, Formula One, we're like, when Lewis Hamilton was retiring, we want to find all of the footage from his go-karting days, which we own, all the way through his career. And they just simply couldn't deal with the volume of content to do that the way they wanted to do it. Unfortunately, there's so little time between the seasons that we didn't have the opportunity to do it for them. But yeah.
Wow. What's your question? Sorry, Richard. In terms of kind of from where you started to where you are now, and I guess where you're also going to go, how has your own thinking kind of evolved over that time? I know it's quite a general question. But.
No, it's good. So I thought I'd be sold by now. But, you thought, 5 years, it'll be fine. Those first kind of year and a half was tough because it didn't feel like we were making any ground. I was kind of responsible for all of the sales effort and the dev effort. My co-founder, Mike, is DevOps, so he understands how to make servers and TV feeds go into my algorithm. And that's how we kind of we had two halves of the puzzle between us. And that was tough. When we got the tender, we had to put a lot of work into that. We didn't have the resources to work on our SaaS products, even though we're like, we are going to be a SaaS company. So we became a services company. And there is that piece of their business, and we always intend to keep that, right, and look after that customer, and then build it. I think I said that we were 18 people when that tender completed. We grew to about 26 until April last year, where we took our first investment of 3 million quid, and then we grew to 33, and then now we are kind of growing from there in multiple directions as well. So,
Thank you. Go on, Richard.
Well, I'm intrigued with. First of all, it sounds amazing, and you've talked about Dad's Army. Each episode seems to be the same anyway.
You had him at Dad's Army.
Certainly a formula, right?
Yeah.
So being able to identify, one episode there's like 80 different versions, and that's quite amazing.
Yeah.
So it's something which I had no clue on before you started talking, which is great. But I suppose that comes with its own set of issues in the sense that you're talking about things you do and people are looking for. So it's not as if this field is like populated with lots of competitors and stuff like that. You're doing stuff which is relatively niche, which has a lot of demand. And I can also see that the point is the people who have the most pain and have the most gain. I could see that you could just sort of have a business which really relies on the top 10 broadcasters worldwide,
Yeah.
and you still have a very, very good business around that. But then you talk about doing things for surveillance and so it sounds as though it has lots of opportunities. But then if you want to sort of get sold and stuff like that, you need to be very good at, at what you do in the marketplace you're in. So can you give us a sort of an indication of the sort of size from a revenue point of view, sort of, profitability point of view you're at the moment, and where you think you might be in 2 years' time when you exit, or 3 years' time?
Yeah. So right now, well, last year we turned over 2.25 million. There's two sides. There's kind of the bespoke development side of the business, the service-oriented side, which is like looking after the ClearCast product, and then there's the software as a service side, and they kind of operate quite differently. So revenue. So we look after this. This is very valuable to us. This is strategically important to us as well, because of where it puts us in the market. But the SaaS side is ultimately more valuable because we're building a product once and selling it multiple times. So this is the thing God is going. We love that. We want to look after that. But how you grow that? So for example, the Assure product for Barb, which became the industry standard, was a significant chunk of revenue, which is profitable, very profitable for us, that we can then reinvest. But that same product we can then lift and shift to other territories, or even that data that we give to Barb, because they don't get the data on who was actually watching TV until the next morning. They've asked us not to give them the data till the next morning. But if an organization like, for example, Publicis, or a brand like McDonald's wants to know exactly when their ads have played in real time, I can give that data directly to them as well. So there's direct there, and that basically doesn't increase my cost. And as I said, we're offering the same product in South Africa. Now, obviously, we've got an offer over in Ireland to do a similar thing. And then one of my competitors has basically been a duopoly in this, that have been doing very low stuff for the ad tracking side of things. One of them's decided to move out of everywhere but North America, which has created this gap. One of the reasons is technology like mine has such a much higher accuracy than theirs that they were struggling to compete. And then with Match, and as well, one of the things I say is we are, again, we're 34 people, we're a sales team of 3. We can't go deliberately hunting after lots of small players. So those tech partners I put up there and the channel partners that we have, if you're holding your content in one of those DAM or MAM solutions, soon you'll be able to click a button and all of your content will go through our system behind the scenes and it will just deduplicate. So you don't have to go and build an integration, you don't have to worry about it, you can just buy it through these providers. And Amazon AWS, which powers about a third of the world's web services, have a marketplace. We're joining that marketplace. You'll be able to basically buy our service through that. It will be a managed service through that initially, but that's a way to access it. So there's a wide range of customer sizes. I mean, the smallest one we've done to date is a post-production company in New York that only had 6,000 minutes worth of content, which is not a lot because it's all ad content. It's quite small compared to the stuff we were doing for Sky, or even what we can do for big companies that are currently going through large mergers at the moment. And therefore, when you merge two companies of that size, there's a load of duplicate content, right? And that creates a massive issue. And then they're looking at what tech stack they're going to use, and there has to be a migration in there somewhere. So it's a big opportunity for us as well.
And the third-party companies you're talking about, your partners, they would find those opportunities and bring them to you as opposed to your 3 sales.
Correct, yeah, exactly. So the largest sales opportunities, they'll bring us in and we'll consult. So if you're dealing with a Disney or Warner Brothers or whatever, then you need to get that. You go through that connection, they have those existing relationships, but you're the expert on the technology, you're talking to them. Whereas when I'm talking about the smaller players, so for example, there's a DAM service called Base Media, and another one called VidiSpine. So VidiSpine integrated with our tech in 3 days, and anyone who wanted to could click a button and see a comparison of 2 assets using that algorithm. When they click that button, what happens is the VidiSpine sends an API call to us saying, I'm creating an organization called Nice Shoes, and then I'm going to send you some content and I want these results back, please. And it goes into their system. So we're kind of like almost white labeled. You wouldn't know we're the ones powering that behind the scenes, but we have that option. And then as well, one of the great things about what we do is, so we've got a product company called Harmonize, which builds a genealogy of content. So you've got your raw footage, you've got your edits you made from that, and your clips or your trailers. Where on earth did everything come from, and where else is it used? Because that is a massive issue for rights management, but also if I need to go back and edit something.
Wow.
So using that same algorithm, if we've scanned all that content for match and gone, here are your duplicates, Harmonize can very quickly go, this is where everything came from, where else you've used it, and apply those rights through as well.
So when you eventually sell them,
Yes.
presumably your SaaS business is really going to be the focus.
Yeah, the multiples on SaaS is going to be much higher. And yeah, I mean, there's different ways we construct that. Obviously, when you have a customer like that, you've got to look, A, I want to look after that customer, but B, there's ways we can do that depending on how we exit. But yeah, the value that we will derive and when we get to exit is going to be very much around the SaaS side. Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to ask another one, actually. Sorry, Richard.
Please.
Thinking about your name change, was that a nod to kind of the different markets that you're going to look at? Was that a nod to York in there as well?
Definitely a nod to York, because it's a northern word, and a load of people,
Absolutely.
the Americans are like, what's a Snicket?
Yeah.
No, so that, yeah, it was definitely a nod to Yorkshire. It kind of was a name I had in my head. We went through a whole process where a load of the team put forward names. It was one of mine that I put forward. And it's kind of like, I moved around a lot as a kid, and one of my favorite things to do was explore and like find these secret passages that lead to different places. That's kind of what a Snicket is, right? But it's also a shortcut through something. And we create these big, painful processes that we're shortcutting through to get people to a better end, the same end result, but far faster. And yeah, so I was so sick of starting conversations with, it's not just advertising, it's any kind of video.
Yeah.
When somebody like Warner Brothers was about to walk by because they don't know, we don't care. Yeah, so that was part of it. And obviously initially it was kind of like, well, we want this wider name, and we kind of sat on it for about a year and a half before we rebranded. We want this wider name that will encompass everything we do in media and entertainment, but won't limit us there. So I've mentioned what we can do in like police and security. We could potentially do stuff in medical imaging very fast. We could potentially do some stuff in astronomy. Like there are so many different applications, and right now I'm like
Space.
media and entertainment because that's very cool, but like no, let's stay where we're really, really sharp.
Fantastic. Yeah, I wondered. Richard?
Yeah, wow. So I mean, this is something, so I'm always looking around and thinking there's always tech we can do and where we can start new businesses and things like that. And this is something I would have never in a million years even knew it existed as a problem or anything.
Yeah.
So are there any other, say if you were starting up a new business or something, are there any other sort of fields or opportunities that you think that are ripe for disrupting in this way? Or do you have any advice on trying to find those opportunities or identify them?
Yeah, so there's a really good question, and I was kind of lucky, but also I think there are opportunities that are ripe in pretty much every industry, but the knowledge is behind closed doors. So if I had not been working very closely with Sky, and Sky tell me, for example, did you know it takes us 8 days to get this data to the customer? Longer for Rishti, because Rishti don't give them the data. Or did you know that if there is breaking news, that they will wake somebody up in the middle of the night to check the ads that are coming next to see if they're appropriate?
Oh, good God.
I'll give you some real examples. Heartbreaking, but Kevin Spacey child abuse allegations. Straight after that was an Xbox ad with him in it. O2 Rewards ad featuring discount concert tickets went out straight after news of the Manchester bombing. And so on. So like discovering those problems and going, actually, if we can analyze that content and tell you exactly which content is and isn't appropriate, that has huge value to you and to the brand. And this is what we found is kind of, you start in one area and you look under a rock and Sky are telling you stuff and you're like, well, I can potentially fix that and maybe fix that. And this is an issue for Sky, for their advertising appropriateness and actually programming as well. Because if you have a documentary about 9/11 10 years later and you follow it by that same ad, it's still inappropriate. There's a Dreams ad where people are falling out of the sky onto beds. Guess where that went? I wish I was joking. But the point is you find under these rocks and you go, this is an issue. maybe I can do something about this. And then you turn around and you go, well, actually for the brands, those same rules apply not just to their TV advertising, but for their social, for their, all of their other channels. So if you can build a brand safety product, we call it Alert. If you build a brand safety product that will profile those ads and tell you exactly which ones are affected, and then you can say, hey, I want to pull this out of rotation, but these ones are okay. So TUI Travel will do variant 200 plus versions of the ads with different from and to destinations, single guy, single woman, young couple, old couple, red sky at night, blue sky at night. And then when something happens, like a storm hits Fiji, tell me all the ads that affected Fiji, or tell me, if there's so much nuance to it, but we can pick that stuff out. So it's about, I said kind of be knowledgeable, be in the industry, and it's very hard to do. But if you can get in there and you see something firsthand, it's really important. The other thing is
chatting in real, it's not just on site, it's chatting with real people.
Exactly, exactly. I would also say, don't be afraid to pivot if what you're doing isn't working. So one of the biggest success stories of this is Slack. Anybody heard of Slack?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So it's like Microsoft Teams. They were a gaming company and they needed a way to communicate internally and they didn't have anything good. So they built Slack, and it's a massive organization, massive, beautiful technology. And there you go. But that's some interesting stuff.
Yeah, go on, Chris.
Yeah, really interesting. It's great hearing about the tech, but I'm interested in the human side. So you come and run it against, the terabytes or whatever you said of information, and then you say, oh, you can delete 60%. Someone's going to sit there and actually press delete. How do you deal with that human side of it? And the other reason for asking actually just related is because I used to work in law enforcement, so processing of CCTV and things like that, I can see all the applications there. But again, in the same thing, the whole video has to end up in the disclosure docket to as part of the court trial, and it's just that having worked in law enforcement cultures, like convincing law enforcement actually is accurate enough, and that it hasn't missed the little piece of evidence that actually could be in there if they actually sat there and reviewed it.
Yeah.
How do you deal with all that kind of human side of it?
So the first human side is because what we do is data driven. And we can give you back, for example, with the deduplication, we can give you back basically stats on how likely they are to be duplicates, exactly where the differences occur, how severe were those different. We have a score called distance, which is how different we consider two images or a piece of audio to be. And then basically what our customers are saying is for within a certain threshold, just do it. It's good. Like we've done a POC, we're happy with everything, So when we do POCs for customers, and it's probably useful to people as well, when we do POCs for customers, we never start without knowing exactly what the success criteria are. This is not like toe dip, I'm going to give this a try. This is what is success for you guys. That's what we're marking against. They give us the content, it does what we promise. It might not do something else, and they go, could it do this as well? And we go, yes, no, maybe. So we might say yes, and it's coming, or actually, you know what, that's so critical to you that once that feature is ready, we'll rerun the POC and give you that extra data. Like, for example, the content thinning piece, right, is someone who went, actually, this is really cool, but I need to be able to do content thinning. Another one said, actually, I need to be able to compare assets where the differences are massively different. So what we might have is we might have a 30-minute episode of something, and then somebody adds 3 minutes to the start of it to make it a 33-minute episode of something. Previously, our algorithm kind of looked at it side by side. Now it's able to go, well, hang on, there's an extra 3 minutes, and it was here, but if you then line up from those points, it's back to being the same. So we can kind of highlight that and go, there's where your new bit is, but don't worry, nothing else has changed. And we can give all of that back via the API, and then your workflow engine or your DAM decides, what do I want to do about it? Some of that is, that's too low a score, that's iffy, put it in front of a human, and the human can make a decision. It's kind of like the 80-20 rule, right? And part of that will be determined by how much is exact duplication and how much is versioning. And that's going to be on a customer by customer basis. The law enforcement point you raised, yeah, I mean, it's a really good point. I think the thing is we can proof the tech. We can show you with that content theme piece exactly where the movement is. And it just becomes another POC, is what is the standard we need to reach? Because on the flip side, actually, what is the chance that we catch something that the officer miss? So did I mention the Manchester bombing?
Yeah, you did. Yeah.
So that's the thing, right? And the fact that we can do that is crucial. The other thing as well is one of our fingerprints, you can specify an area on screen. So I don't care about that lot. Just tell me if somebody crosses the, interacts with this door or TFL. If I don't care if there's movement on the platform, but if there's any movement on the tracks, I immediately want to put it through AI and see if it was a person or a paper bag. And then, with the police enforcement bit, it's about highlighting where you need to look or where an AI needs to look rather than deletion, right? So it's just about, can we very, very quickly give you the information? And of course, some of that is breaking crime. So the faster we can give you that, the faster you can go and do something about it. But if it takes you 6 hours to watch through the footage or, even 30 minutes to watch through something at 6x, so you might miss something.
Are you watching the capture? That's what's bringing to mind right now. I think we've got time for one more question. Yeah, Nigel.
Yeah, great technology. I can see with huge potential.
Thanks.
I was curious though, you'd set yourself out with a timeline towards an exit, and it's like with exponential growth of video content outside of sort of media and surveillance and other sectors we've touched on, that actually you're only just starting to scratch the surface. So I was kind of curious why you're thinking that timeline when actually in 5-7 years time rather than 2 to 3 years time you could be stratospheric compared to where you are today.
Yeah, I mean, that's always the question. I mean, when I started, I thought I'd be sold by now, but things didn't go that way, and it's okay. It's about, yes, you're right, there is that. There's also potential for kind of overreach, but there's also, the ability. So, for example, the companies we're thinking of exiting to, what our technology will do for their existing products will uplift the value of their existing products so much that it has colossal potential. And that's not just going to get me a multiple of my SaaS revenue. That's going to get me a different value add benefit. And then, of course, the technology is going to go on and do even greater things, right? Which is then, I'm not greedy. So, if it's an acceptable number, I don't need it to be absolutely stratospheric. I'd like to be on the kind of hockey stick, of course. But yeah, it's a good question. I'll give you one example. So I think I mentioned NVIDIA, right? So NVIDIA is doing so much with AI. They're big graphics producers. And their plan was always, we're going to build more data centers, we're going to deploy more kit, that's really valuable. Now they can't get the parts, so suddenly they're like, how do we do more with the hardware and the data centers we have? If Enrich can reduce AI usage on video by 75% or more, suddenly I've just 4x'd NVIDIA's capacity, let alone what we can do for their customers, right? So it's about that. There's various applications. So like AWS do a lot in media, Google are a lot more on the ad side. So there are different products that appeal to different markets, but could do so much with what they already have.
Amazing, right? I think that's a great place to leave it. Let's put our hands together for Tom. Thank you.